Hello, what have we here?
Welcome to IDP Nation, the place for IDP and draft coverage. We are your hosts, Dan and Darrell. We have you covered from your LB1 to your taxi squad. We are IDP Nation. And we are back once again. You might be seeing this on YouTube. You might be hearing us on your podcatcher of choice. Whatever it is, we're glad to have you back. If you're seeing our faces, welcome. How are you? You might see our guest down there. We got Hollywood with us as usual. And we are joined this week by at Detroit Beastie.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you. That's you. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. To peel back the curtain a little bit, to let everybody know that they asked me to be on. I couldn't be more thrilled. And then we all got to chat and kind of catch up a little bit about 20 minutes prior to us going live. And two good dudes. I'm happy to be on. And I'm a quick shout out to the Australian guy, Peter, who I heard a lot about you. And I'm ready to talk IDP, DFS, anything and everything. Happy to be here. Can't thank you guys enough.
Yes, Peter will be getting to hear the Patreon episodes as he just became our latest patron. So thank you, and we'll be in touch. Obviously, a little busy right this second.
Hopefully you can stick around, Chris, and join us on the Patreon.
Absolutely.
I got nothing but time, guys.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So tell us, well, let's start off the bat. Where can the people find your work? Where can they find you on the Twitter sphere? I think I already said it, but it's spelled out at the bottom of the page too. That's what's kind of nice about having us on YouTube is you can just read. You don't even need us to tell you where to find. But for those listening at home, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. I take everybody in, any conversation, any DM, follow for follow, that kind of thing. I love a good sports conversation, a current events conversation, anything you want to talk about, happy to do that at Detroit Beastie. And all my content is on strictly on dfscheatsheet.com and on Twitter if you want to follow them. They're at DFS Cheat Sheet 1 on Twitter. Someone else had the DFS Cheat Sheet name. Why? I don't know. So come follow
like
me.
The guy buying up all the Washington Red Tails and the Red Wolves, and
That's exactly what it is.
Maybe they saw an opportunity and said, "Hey."
That's $1 million idea. I don't think the DFS cheat sheet yet is going to be worth $1 million, but
well, they just decided to put one there. So
I'm telling you, when I changed from DFF Win to Hollywood Titan, when I first started typing in, I was like, man, if this name is taken, somebody's ass is mine.
And I don't mean not to be rude, Dan, but I think in like Hollywood Titan 15 is kind of lame. Detroit Beastie 2, I wouldn't want to do it. So Seahawks Dan 8 is kind of
Well, the 8 is actually
I'm with you, Detroit.
The 8 is actually my lucky number. So when I first set up this Twitter account back in, I don't know, like 2012, I wasn't actually writing or doing anything. I was just a random dude that joined Twitter for fantasy information. And also it was also, I guess Matt Hasselbeck was still the quarterback for the Seahawks at the time. So yeah, it's kind of.
I think he played in Tennessee for a while too.
He did, yes, he did. He's probably the second best Seahawks quarterback in the history. Jim Zorn might be right up there,
What about was it David Craig, the quarterback there? Because he came to Detroit. He came to Detroit after his Seattle days, if I'm not mistaken.
That's taking it back some David Craig.
He didn't take us too far though, but yeah. But yeah, so we're going to talk today a little bit of DFS, a little bit of IDP, get into some things here. But first, Darrell, what do you have news-wise for us? I know it's been a crazy week as far as the football world.
Yeah, and these first three are kind of I guess they kind of tie all together. So, they've the NFL and the NFLPA have agreed that they will be daily testing for the first 2 weeks of training camp for this COVID. I know that's everybody's tired of talking about it, myself included, but reality is we have to address it. Yeah. So, they're going to test for the first 2 weeks and see how many players are positive or not positive, all this good stuff. And then today the last couple of days, we kind of learned that there's going to be no preseason games for 2020. They agreed on that. And and then here's the bad news. Training camp rosters are going to be limited to 80 players. So, I'm not worried about the testing for the first 2 weeks, but no preseason games, and you're going to cut rosters down to 80. This kills the rookie class. It really does. And it kills your fringe players too, because my question is, if you're an NFL owner and you've got your draft class drafted, this could go either way. You're either going to cut rookies that, hey, I'm not going to take this chance on him, I'm going to go with the veterans, or do you have these veterans that, I'm not too sure about, I'm going to go with the youth and get these rookies in here and try to develop them? Which way do you go? What do you do? Well, and with the limited rosters, you don't have many options. So,
yeah, but I mean, 90 to 80, you're really looking at those guys that weren't going to make the roster anyway. But I mean, there are those guy like Victor Cruz that comes out of nowhere. Right. Those are the guys you're not having in the camp, which I think does hurt. Those guys. I know on NFL Network they had some HBCU guys on, some former HBCU. They said it really hurts those guys because a lot of those guys were undrafted, got jobs in training camps, and guys like Tariq Cohen. Darius Leonard obviously was a second-round pick, but Tariq Cohen, he wasn't a second-round pick. He made the squad on his talent and showing out preseason, so it does hurt guys like that.
Yeah, especially your undrafted guys, and we're going to touch on one here in just a second. I mean, that really hurts them because this preseason and this training camp is, they know this is, for lack of a better way of putting it, this is their last chance. They have to get in there. They have to grind. They have to show that they belong. And some of them make it, some of them don't. But when you take the opportunity away, that's what really hurts, is when you take that chance away.
Hopefully I'm not spoiling the next story, but I think that, if I'm not mistaken, the first casualty is Khalil Tate in Philadelphia. Yeah. He was drafted by them in the summer of 2018. He was a preseason Heisman candidate. And in the summer, he was actually undrafted quarterback trying to make the transition to wide receiver, and they've already waived him. And
that's a great example. I mean, he was already, I think, kind of on the line, receiver, quarterback, whatever, and now he's not going to get in there to be able to prove. I mean, these teams are going to make these hard decisions, and
really,
where does they go?
There's no XFL, there's no CFL, there's no option, really. I mean,
and a guy like Khalil Tate, he's the prototypical, gets to play in those first 2 preseason games. Then he gets, the normal starters play the entire, second half of the third game. And then the fourth game, that's right before the roster cuts. And you can see what he's got. Would they might have put him in at quarterback for a little bit just in case, let him play some receiver, some, special team stuff, really show them what he's about. And he's 6'2", 200 plus pounds. I mean, who knows? I'd like to think he's going to be picked up somewhere else, but we don't know.
Yeah. I mean, with these limited rosters, you just don't think people are going to pick up a lot of people. I mean, they're going to go with what they got, and that's where they're going to make their hard decisions. Do I keep these rookies? Do I keep these fringe veteran players? What do I do here? So
it's kind of, to make it abundantly clear, you are on video. So,
I know.
So swatting flies and
the little bastard's pissing me off. Sorry.
if I may say something real quick, it's not insect related, but you have these kids like Khalil Tate, and there's going to be a ton more that are cut that were drafted or in their second season. They're still young, they're fast, they get cut. What do we do with our dynasty teams? Do we add them? Do we drop them? Because some of our rosters we can only carry so many people like in real life. So it's going to make a real interesting waiver wire kind of season. And then further into the off season this time next year, people are going to be rushing to the waiver wire for a large group of these kids. And what do you do with them? We haven't seen them play. They miss.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting. So it's something that I personally am going to keep my eye on.
I think we're going to see ramifications from this for a couple of years. I really do, because they're not getting on the field. There's, like Dan said, there's no CFL, there's no XFL, there's nowhere for them to go. Yeah. So if they're not on an NFL roster or a practice squad, they're kind of screwed. I mean, they're just kind of out there.
They're in no man's land, like a purgatory,
exactly.
Let's say.
And then you roll over next year. Do they come back and challenge that class? Mm-hmm. Where are we at with this COVID thing? I mean, I think we're going to see at least a couple of years of this before it gets back to some kind of normalcy. Yeah. It's going to have a big impact, in my opinion. Yeah, are y'all expanding your rosters in your fantasy leagues? Are you saying, okay, COVID players, we're going to give X amount of spots because of this? Or are you keeping it the same? Or what are you guys doing?
Great question. And I'm in several full-blown IDP leagues, obviously with offensive roster spots. And in my 2 full-blown IDP leagues, there was talk of this probably a month ago. And the commissioner, he's a great guy. He said, he brought this question up well in advance of all this. He goes, so what are we going to do? Are we going to have COVID-19 IR kind of spots? And we said, yeah, let's do it. And then lo and behold, about 3 to 4 days ago, the big dogs like Yahoo and ESPN, I believe, are going to add in COVID IR spots, which will be separate from your taxi spots like on Sleeper and your IR spots on, your on your normal IR spots. So a COVID injury spot is a real thing now.
It's crazy. And just piggybacking off of Ezekiel Elliott, whatever happened to HIPAA laws? Because
absolutely.
That's not somebody tearing an ACL. That's somebody, having an immune disease. It's not, And
I'm with
some guy, it just sounds like. Even reporting ACL injuries and stuff, the ease that and no offense to our buddy Ethan Turner, but it seems like if he can Google somebody, he can find almost every injury the person's ever had dating back to high school. So it's how is that not illegal to just put somebody's injury history on,
It's definitely illegal. And I talked about this in length about a week to 10 days ago on another podcast. And I don't want to say we made fun of it because it's a serious situation. I mean, I don't really know many people who like the Dallas Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott, but that aside, it's still a violation of your health rights and HIPAA, as you've said, but also not to be that guy. Professional athletes are held to a higher standard, like celebrities. They're always in the gossip columns, and they're always on Twitter and Instagram posting every little bit of their life. And he had a COVID party with his friends and other people, and then boom, look what happened. So again, I don't wish the guy any ill will. It was pretty silly to have a COVID party and then bam, he gets COVID, but that is very much so a violation of his rights. And again, young, studly guy. He's I think he's well and clear of it now, but it's still not cool to do that,
Yeah. All right, moving on. Darrell, what else we got here?
Speaking on undrafted free agents, our last piece of news here, and one that's close to Dan. Defensive end Michael Bennett has retired after 11 seasons. He was a former undrafted free agent and had for somebody that's not drafted, he had a pretty good career. 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time Super Bowl champ with the Seahawks. Finishes his career with 69.5 sacks, which just gets him currently inside the top 100 all-time at number 97 in sacks. So pretty good career for somebody that wasn't drafted. Not sure he gets into the Hall of Fame or even in that discussion, but he had a 3 or 4 year run where he was pretty good there, especially for the Seahawks.
Yeah, and he had a great career. Grateful for all that he did for the Seahawks, especially in that Super Bowl run. I think he was maybe looking for one more year, one more contract. It didn't really work out. I mean, you're looking at Jadeveon Clowney can't get signed. You look at these guys that are on free. Devonta Freeman's been a hot topic today on Twitter about where he's going to go. Apparently, the Raiders offered him a deal. These teams don't really want to bring anybody else in, especially since they're cutting down, to from 90 to 80. They don't want to take shots on these fringe guys and have to pay them millions. I'm guessing they'd rather maybe keep their budget where it is because they're not going to get ticket sales.
Right.
Because it's looking like, the Jets and the Giants in MetLife, they've pretty much said fans aren't going to happen here. It's pretty much maybe not the full season, but for at least the first part of the season, they're not going to have fans in New Jersey.
Not to get too far off of this, but me and a friend was talking today. Don't you think that Fox and NBC and CBS and ESPN, ABC, all these TV companies, while COVID is a big thing, they're loving this right now because all these stadiums that can't fill up, all these states that are closed down. What's that mean? That means fans are stuck at home. And what are they going to do? They're going to flip that TV switch, man. And that is huge views for them, huge. And that's why the NFL keeps pushing because they know this TV package is going to be huge. And they're not passing this money up. They're just not.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think they're going to. But, they're going to make their money anyway.
They are going to make their money. But they're going to make their money anyway. You're correct. But when you have a situation like COVID where it's limiting fans in stadiums, where it's limiting where you can't go to bars and watch games or you can't go over to a friend's house and watch games, so to speak. When you have these restrictions and you're stuck at home, man, you're going to be flipping that switch. You're going to be tuning in, and that's dollar signs. Their eyes are rolling right now like slot machines.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick. See if I'm not the only one. So, again, I told you guys before the show, I'm nobody special, just a regular guy with a job and a career, but I do enjoy the DFS and the fantasy sports. And it's a 24/7, 365 thing. We're always talking it. We're always reading about it. We're always writing about it. So when Sunday comes along during the football season, I'm burned out. I'm lucky if I watch a full game, and we're talking Lions, and the Lions, the Honolulu Blue and Silver's in my blood, and I'm lucky if I'm able to watch a whole game on Sunday because I'm so burned out from reading and writing about it. So that's something that popped in my mind while you Darrell, were talking about the network deals. But I get burned out sometimes, and I'm not one of those guys who can just, I can, but just lay in my recliner all day and watch football. I'll get one of them days every now and then during the season, but realistically, I get burned out and I don't watch as much football as the normal fan does.
Well, I think that's kind of why I give up the rest of the season or push away the rest of the sports, baseball, basketball, because I know when football season, when it's on, I devote at least 2 days, Saturdays and Sundays, because I'm watching college and pros. Then you got Monday night football, you got Thursday night football. So I'm dedicated. I'm watching every little piece I can, and I think that's why I kind of don't follow the other sports as much as I used to, because one, it's not my favorite. Football's where it's at. That's what I'm going to watch. That's what I'm trying to do with my writing and podcasting and all that. So I'm going to devote all my time to that. But yeah, it's a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that. I was joking around. Maybe it's because you have to watch the Lions. Maybe. But no, I am glued to my TV. I mean, even the London games. I'm pretty sure there's going to be no London games this year, but even the London games that started at 9:30 that day, it was from 9:30 till at least 11 o'clock at night. Sometimes the night games, if it's been a bad day at work or a long day at work, I can't make it through. But yeah, most of the time, if there's a football game on, I'm watching it. College, I am not as I've said before on the show. Me and my wife kind of have a silent agreement that Saturdays I don't really watch football 24/7 because that we both work a lot. We both work 6 days a week, so it's kind of like
right.
By the time I get home on Saturday, it's like 4 o'clock, so it's kind of like we do something together or try to at least, and then Sundays are my day to just do nothing. So, but yeah, I mean, I think they're going to get their money from TV no matter what. I mean, it's the ticket sales. It's have you checked out how much seat licensing costs? That the Raiders and the Rams and the Chargers are going to have these beautiful stadiums with nobody in them.
Yeah,
beautiful brand new stadiums that nobody can go to,
right?
Which is crazy.
It's funny you say that. You might want to not check my math, but check what I'm saying here. I read an article probably 2 or 3 months ago that said a season ticket package in Vegas for the Raiders it's like $75,000.
Yeah,
just to watch the Raiders play. So kind of goes with what you were saying, the seat licensing as far as season ticket packages are.
Yeah, because I mean, normally with the way I mean, I know the way the Eagles Stadium worked was you had to pay like $2,000 for the seat license for like 10 years or something, and then you also had to then buy your tickets every year.
Right.
Yeah.
So it ends up being astronomical. I mean, even for like nosebleed seats, you're still paying, probably over the 10 years. I mean, I'm not even going to try to come up with a figure, but.
So what are they? I've not really followed it. What are they doing with these? If they can't fill the stadiums, what are they doing with season ticket holders? Are they refunding them? Are they forwarding that to next season? What are they doing?
I'd like to think it's a mix of both. We can, let's say I'm a Vegas administrator and I'm talking to you, Darrell. You have season tickets. Well, you have a few options here we can do, Mr. Darrell. We can roll over what you paid for next season. We can refund you or, things of that nature. Business 101 would tell me that they're trying to not give out money back for season tickets as much as possible and just rolling it over for next year, which again, I'd also be willing to bet, the fans are more than happy to do that. They're looking at it as, well, I've already paid for next season in advance, so I can, watch the games comfortably at home.
Yeah. And, they're investing that money. They're going to take that money and roll it into, I don't know, some kind of COVID stock. Some kind of COVID vaccine stock and try to win some money off of it.
Right.
But anyway, let's get anything else besides Michael Bennett. We somehow took a left turn from Michael Bennett to the COVID again. But
damn Seahawks. No, that was pretty much it. I guess with the training camps and everything starting to fire up this week, we'll see some more. It'll be interesting we kind of touched on it, not to get back off on it, but it'll be interesting to see the cuts. Do they cut the rookies? Do they cut veterans? What's these teams going to do? So that's something I'm going to be watching really close.
If they can save money, they're going to save money. If you have a low dollar guarantee, you're gone probably. I mean, because they're going to try to. I've heard stuff about the salary cap going down next season, which is terrible news if that's true. If the salary cap's going to go down next season, because these teams that are planning on, I look at the Cowboys and because they're betting on that salary cap increasing every year, the way they're giving money and going to have to give out money to Dak after the season if they plan on keeping him. It might get bad for some teams, looking at next year,
But I think that's where this TV package really comes in, because the TV part is going to boom.
That doesn't mean anything for the salary cap, though.
kind of ties into it, though. I mean, the more money the NFL makes as a whole, the more they're going to be able to put out. I mean,
it ties in, but
there are a few little sneaky tricks teams can do, like put like shuffle a couple players down to practice squad. So some of those guys, those veterans that made their living just on the practice squad that we don't know about, they might get cut, and then they'll put their, instead of cutting their rookie, they'll put him on the practice squad in hopes of bringing him up later in the season or even next year, let's say. And a rookie, if they signed a contract, right, that's just it. They're under contract. So they can waive. I'm not 100% sure, so I shouldn't speak on this, but right. I do believe that there's a certain group of people that can be waived, but they can't sign anywhere else because they're still under contract and they're still getting paid. But with them being waived, they're off the books as far as a roster spot. They're not at practice. They're not in the facility. They're at home on their couch, but they can still be called back to, start practicing or be with the team again. So I don't know. I'm not an NFL GM or an executive, but I'd like to think that there are a lot more tricks and tips than we know about to shuffle these guys around.
Yeah. And you mentioned it. I'm kind of I just lost my word right here. I'm kind of whatever. I'm surprised. That's it. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't expand these practice squad rosters. I know you don't want to expand the NFL roster, but these kids need somewhere to go. And with no XFL, no CFL, why not expand your practice squad and kind of stash maybe another 5 players there? At least try to help these kids.
Well, you're implying the NFL owners care.
Well, true. I know that
they care about the product that goes in the field on Sundays. That's what they care about.
Well, they're not really cared about that. They're cared about the almighty dollar. But
yes, and the product that they put on the field on Sundays is what brings.
Jesus Christ, don't get me started on that. But I mean, doesn't that it makes sense that you would expand another 5-10 spots on practice squad? Help these kids out because
they're trying to cut down the amount of people in the building is what they're trying to do.
I know they are,
but they should just have – I mean, they should almost have like a minor league
exactly
team.
Right.
In case, what if the entire offensive line gets sick? They're going to have to bring in, that's where I think the fantasy world is in danger, is if a team has to take a week off.
That's a great take. What happens if you got 4 offensive linemen? So let's say, what if 4 offensive linemen, your starters, get hit with COVID and they're out for 2 weeks?
Next man up. It's a next man up.
What if you don't have a next man on your practice squad? I mean, are you going to
test them 15 times that week?
Then you get sent a sheet of paper that says these are the guys that are available at home or at the bar that
have
you can sign
consistently.
Yeah, this is going to be crazy.
We'll speak on this when we're a little bit more up to date on what the protocols are. I think they're still working things out, which is ridiculous because they've had months to get this stuff together. Months. It's kind of like, and not to get too ultra political, but it's kind of like how school districts are now just realizing, oh wait, we got to open school in a month or 2 weeks in case of Darrell's school, right? Your school's open.
Yeah, they just sent out a thing. I guess they're going to split it. If you're not comfortable, keep the kids at home. But if you're comfortable, send them to school. So
every place is doing something different, though. Which is
it's a mess.
I mean, some schools have basically said we're going all virtual. Some have said we're planning on going back, and keep the kids away from each other.
Right.
Yeah. Oh well. I'll stop there. But anyway, a couple plugs and a couple things you need to take care of. I want to thank myfantasyleague.com. They are our sponsor for our listener league, which we will get back to one of these weeks here. Maybe next week. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll get the rest of that draft. We did start the rookie draft in our listener league, so that's exciting. I just picked up Justin Jefferson, and I think I have Young Buck has back-to-backs, and then I get to pick again. So I won't share who I'm going to pick here, but hopefully maybe the young buck Matt Jackson will pick, so that way I can pick on air. But also, they are sponsoring the IDP Guys Autism Speaks Invitational that will be kicking off on August 1st. You can see I am in a Murderer's Row division, the blue division. I think you're in one too. We purposely did that to kind of set experts against experts and rookies against, not rookies, but newer to IDP against newer to IDP, so that you kind of have, I don't want to say it like you have a better shot of winning, but you're playing on a more balanced field.
Yeah, I think I'm in the blue division too. There was a tweet sent out this morning, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's a pretty like I said, it's a murderer's row of IDP players. I think Johnny the Greek is in there. Tom K from DLF is in there. I think you're in there. I can't remember off the top of my head everybody else, but it is. I can bring it up real quick. But yeah, it's going to be some very difficult league to try to win. So you always want to play with the best. So it's a good thing. Definitely. Antonio Vasquez, which is better known as IDP Dude, I believe. Fantasy Ray is in there. Our co-host on the lounge, Kyle Bellafuel, is in there.
Oh, look at you. You got the name right.
Yes, I did. How about that? Let's see here. Matt Lawson's in there. He's one of our good friends of the show here. Andy Spiteri, who just joined one of our Autism Speaks eliminators also. And Jason Barnes is in there. Actually, I think you're in the black division.
Yes.
Me?
Darrell.
Yeah, I'm in the black.
Darrell, yeah. Okay. Yes, you're in with Darrell in the black division with Nate and Dwight Peebles, Mike Waller. Yeah, you guys got a pretty good murderer's row here too. So yeah, a couple of really tough divisions, definitely. But we'll be talking about it, tweeting about it, and getting some information out. We thank we're well over $1,000 raised for that.
Awesome.
And with my eliminators, I did raise my goal to 2,000, which is my goal for fundraising for this year. We could probably hit it. I know a few people have donated a little extra on top of their eliminator money. So that's a great thing. Just quick plug for looking for a couple people. So yeah, Jordan Rains, his IDP 123 45-man roster needs 2 more to play. I think maybe 3, because one of the people in this hasn't shown up to any of them yet. So I've had to replace them. We need 1 more for Dynasty Trips Superflex with IDP 123. Because we had a couple people back out because they kind of clicked multiple things thinking they just get one choice. So I understand not wanting to draft 5 leagues at once. Donnelly, Matt Donnelly, Dingus, you probably know him as Darrell. I know you don't know him as Matt.
I don't know who Matt is, but I know who Coach is, if that's who you're talking about.
Coach, yes. There's 3 left in there. So he was crying the other day that nobody loved him, that nobody wanted to come play with him, but he needs about 3 or 4 more, it looks like. Joey the Tooths is rolling. That draft is moving along. And then Darrell, you want to take on all comers here. We have about, I think, 8 or 9 or 8 in there. So we need another 9 more to play. I'll probably play that. So they're
scared of me. That's the only thing it can be. They're just scared.
Scared.
Yeah, they're scared.
Anyway.
Hey, come on, bring it. I ain't scared.
The 1 QB is pretty much full as long as everybody shows up. So that one I kind of took off the list. But any of the IDP ones, jump in. $10. You got $10 somewhere. If you don't, we understand. Hey, if you don't have $10 and you want to join, hit me up. I'll give a couple of these away because I do want to fill them up. And if you're a rookie to IDP and you want to try it out, let me know.
I'll pay for a couple roster spots. Anybody that wants to get into an IDP league, DM me. I'll pay within reason. I've been carrying the IDP flag for a long time, and it's so happy to be on a show with guys that are loving and promoting IDP, because the Superflex option has just taken off, while us IDP guys are still like that. So I'm more than happy to help out a couple people if they don't have the money to get into an IDP league.
Yeah, it's really funny though, because if you think back to, I started playing IDP in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back then, I know the internet was not what it was in 2004 as it is today, but trying to find information was difficult. So you really had to crawl and to scratch at whatever information you could find.
The newspaper. The local newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
Sports.
I was fixing to say, I can so remember the days of the USA Today where I was writing down stats. I've got notebooks over here where I used to write them down, man.
You owe me both.
Finding IDP information was even more difficult because, you could find
absolutely.
You'd basically just have to go and look at who led the league in tackles, and stuff like that. That was about what you had to go off of. Now, there are whole websites dedicated to just IDP, so it has grown, and we keep saying, that it's the next big thing.
It is
standard. You think of Superflex as standard now. It's pretty much it. I remember when PPR was this newfangled thing, and now it's just it's considered.
I didn't think that was going to last. I remember when PPR came out, the points per reception, people did a lot to not make that stick. But again, it's the standard now.
Eventually,
that's a good point. They fought it every step of the way a lot, kind of like they do IDP. They're just like, IDP ain't nothing. I'm not interested. I'll neglect it. I'll do whatever. But it's kind of the same thing.
Well, fantasy football was created for the offensive talent, the fireworks, the touchdowns, the receptions, the rushing touchdowns, quarterbacks, and all that stuff. Defense was never really flashy. You get a group of guys that tackle the offense. It wasn't really any fun, but now there's some defensive guys that are just as prominent, if not more flashy, than some of the offensive guys. They're studs. And me personally, if I'm in a full-blown IDP league, I prefer to build a championship defense first and then just, kind of fumble around with my offense.
So this is a good transition into our main conversation about DFS and IDP. And what, I remember DraftKings during the playoffs, I think it was Saints and Panthers, if I'm not mistaken. They had the one game where they highlighted IDP. And why don't you think that's stuck in DFS? Like, do you think it's just they don't think there's enough interest? Or what do you think? Why do you think DFS runs scared of IDP?
Personally, I think you're correct. There wouldn't be enough interest, but they threw caution to the wind when they created DFS in general. It was, people are still a little apprehensive on DFS, and it's massive. It's blown up beyond anybody's wildest imagination. So, not to contradict myself, but in a way, kind of play devil's advocate with my own thoughts is, well, you took this idea of DFS and ran with it, and look where it got you. What harm would it be to add in a couple utility spots for defensive players, just like a lot of full-blown seasonal leagues are doing? You have your full offense, and then you have, 1 to 3 IDP spots, and you can, and it's all, but they're utility spots. So you could have 3 linebackers. You can mix and match any defense you want. So I don't see any harm in adding a few IDP spots on FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever other DFS sites you are. There's no harm. There's literally no harm that could come from that. If it flops after a year, sweet, you're still left with multi-billion dollars of revenue from the other sports and, the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, you don't have to make huge contests. You don't have to make it like the $1 single entry, thousands and thousands of entries kind of thing. Just have, just make it available. I think that's what irritates me the most.
It could be.
available. Like, you can't create your own contest with a group of friends to do it like you can with other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just annoying.
It would be I can see it now. I could see it now on the the homepage, or whatever they call it, the main room on FanDuel, where you have cash games, GPPs, head to heads, double ups, all that thing, and then there's a section where you can do IDP. There's no harm in that. So
well,
I don't know why it hasn't happened.
On FanDuel, there's Superflex too, so they have different segments of a game. There's not just the classic game anymore. It's there's the single game matchups. There's and all that stuff. I kind of dabble in that stuff mainly if I don't. In the playoffs, I do a little bit more of that because I don't really, I have a fantasy league in the playoffs going or something, but it's just something added to the game that I'm used to having something to check during the game. So I do dabble in DFS a little bit now that sports are back. God,
I firmly believe. Sorry to cut you off. I firmly believe that the more guys like us get together and talk about it, hype it up, keep playing in leagues, keep emailing them, keep talking about it on social media, they'll have no other option but to very much consider it. I mean, they will have no other option. So the more we need to all get together more often and keep talking about IDP, keep playing in IDP leagues. And I guarantee you, sooner or later, they will have IDP available to us on DFS, because from what I understand and what I've seen over the years with DFS, they listen to us. They listen to the casual fan. They listen to the guys that they call sharks who are playing $50,000, $40,000 worth of lineups a night. They're very user-friendly, let's say. So the more we keep talking about this and loving it and enjoying it, they will have no other option but to make our dreams and wishes come true.
Yeah, and I think it's coming, like you said. I mean, with the way that IDP is growing, with the following, with the interest in it, I think if we continue to push and just keep the foot on the gas, it's going to happen sooner or later, like you said.
Yeah, and with the interest, and just thinking about myself, I play a couple single entries. I play a few tournament lineups just for, a quarter, like I'm not a big player by any means. I'm not a shark. I don't invest a ton. I play around to have some fun with it, to, look at my lineup later on, see how I did with it. I play some 50-50s here and there. I'm going to have to start reading some of your hockey and baseball stuff because, with no sports and nothing going on, I'm kind of chomping at the bit to do something, watch some sports and have something invested in it. I don't think I'm going to do fantasy baseball because that's a lot of time for a 60-game sprint, to draft and all that. But the DFS stuff, I some of the days I'm, my afternoon's pretty much open, so I can kind of dive in and take a look at some lineups and explore.
Not to be that guy, but that's what I do. A large portion of my content is DFS related. So lean on me for baseball DFS. That's why I do it. That's what I'm there for. You and anybody else that's listening, more than welcome to DM me or send me a message on Facebook 24/7. I'm like an on-call DFS doctor. I can always be reached. I'm always there to help people. And I'd like to think that anybody who's watching this live or will watch this, they know that I put my money where my mouth is. I'm so very happy and willing to help other people and support other people. So that's awesome. Why I do my content. Lean on me, Dan.
There you go. Yeah, especially I'm so looking forward to hockey just because they're pretty much done with the regular season. It's like this little playoff thing they got going, like for the top seeds, and then it's playoffs. It's like time to get down to it.
They're doing a 24 bracket playoff, like you said. There's going to be play-in games, kind of like the NCAA tournament. And the first one I think is Toronto is going to be playing the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's a play-in game. Yeah, and we go from there.
And the top seeds are playing each other round robin to see who gets what spot. I believe is what I've heard. I really, haven't done much checking into it. I just look at my my Flyers app and see when they're playing. I know they had a scrimmage today. That's the only thing I know.
I must tell you, I know we're not here, it's the IDP guys, but we're not here to talk hockey DFS, but that really gets me going. I love hockey and I love hockey DFS. And again, not to be that guy, but before all this COVID hit, my daily hockey DFS articles were just picking up steam, and they were all fantastic. And I mean, I guess that's the sign of any good fantasy sports content. Let's say you want the guy to be excited and have enthusiasm about it. So again, anything you need, just ask me, because I go through hockey box scores and stats and time on ice, plus minus block shots. It works with a fine-tooth comb. I love doing it. So
cool.
I'm very much excited about the hockey playoffs coming back around.
Yeah, it's like 2 weeks.
August.
Hashtag
hot pucking stacks. That's the name of the article.
Yeah, that's the only thing the one thing I've learned about hockey DFS is find a hot line and just play the hot line. Like
that's
it. Being a good strategy. Stack your line. So we'll have to talk and find some stacked lines for me to play around with here. That one day of hockey, I mean, I know we're supposed to be talking football, but that one day of hockey is going to be crazy. There's apparently they're alternating the games between Toronto and Edmonton. So there'll be hockey from noon to 11 o'clock at night straight through. It's going to be crazy. That very first
But the
day.
NFL though, if they can get this going, if the NFL can get this going with no big, huge COVID issues, even with the NBA coming back, even with the MLB coming back, the NFL is going to steamroll them if they can get this going.
I've been of the belief, and this may be just me thinking out loud here, I've been of the belief that the NFL might want to just push everything back until baseball's done, until hockey's done, until basketball's done, so they can have everything on their own. And then they could spread out. They could say, you know what, we'll put games on Friday nights, we'll put games on Saturday nights, we'll put games on Sunday nights. We'll just spread everything out, because baseball is going to be the true litmus test. Because if you look at what hockey and basketball are doing, they're in bubbles.
Right.
Football is not doing the bubble thing. Baseball is not doing the bubble thing. So when you watch baseball, see how that plays out, because if it's pretty successful and people aren't, contracting COVID or whatever, then football can say, okay, we can do this without, a quote unquote bubble where we're just locking everybody down in one place and playing. Right. Now, if baseball ends up having to slash games and cancel the rest of the season, or take 3 weeks off to, get everybody back to testing negative, then football might have to rethink how they're doing things.
Absolutely. And I like what you said about if football wanted to wait and then have games, on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, it's going to get real weird, because the Players Association, they're really picky when it comes. Well, we don't have a lot of there's going to be a ton of turmoil with the players and the Players Association saying, well, if we play Thursday, but then we got to play again Wednesday for Thanksgiving, it's going to be real weird, because they are, much like all of us, they're creatures of habit. They live their life around that. They wake up Sunday, they play the game, and then they have a regimen leading up to every practice, every game, and there it goes. So they're not, I don't think they'd be happy with just throwing caution to the wind and just letting it happen how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe this may be, it might be a scheduling nightmare. Play every 2 weeks. I mean, they could spread this out. They could really just milk it through till whenever. I know they want to play the Super Bowl in February, is what they kind of have said. Because I think they said October 15th, I think, would be the latest they want to start the season. Or they wanted to start.
Yeah.
But, they could start in December if they really wanted to. They don't really have to start. I think they're just trying to close the window so they're not pushed too much up against. I look at hockey. is how is hockey's next season going to run? Because they're already, I mean, they would be starting training camp in September for hockey and basketball. So how's the 2021 season going to look?
Yeah, a Stanley Cup champion would have already more than likely been crowned already, and they haven't even gotten to the playoffs yet. Because
normally
it goes into the Stanley Cup. It's end of July. Someone wins the cup, and then they got 3 months off, and they start over again.
It's normally June, really. Because I remember it's always around the end of school year that the NBA and the NHL is about done in June. So it's crazy.
Well, Seattle doesn't have a professional hockey team, and the Flyers. You're not really playing for a Stanley Cup most seasons anyway. So.
I did create the Seattle Whalers on hockey games. There's an option in the hockey game where you can create the Seattle franchise, the 30-second franchise that's eventually going to, I guess, happen. And so I decided to bring back the Whalers. But they're all all Seahawks colors. You can design the uniforms and stuff. It's pretty nice. But
what system is this for? PlayStation 4?
PS4, yeah. Okay. Not Nintendo. You can play Blades of Steel.
I'm a simple man. I will never shy away from that fact.
There's no problem. I love Blades of Steel and Tecmo Super Bowl and all those games.
I'm a Legend of Zelda guy through and through.
Oh man, love Legend of Zelda. Love it.
I play the original one through once a year, normally in December. When you got like that 2-week vacation between Christmas and New Year's. I play it through every year, and at this point, I've been playing it for 25 years. I'm able to get through, the first and the second quest pretty quick within about 10 days.
Nice.
Awesome.
Any more DFS stuff, Darrell? Anything to cover there?
No, I think we've covered a lot of it. I mean,
yeah.
Beastie's been a great source of information for us.
Yes.
Yeah, if I may have a second, I just published an article about an hour or so before we went live. It's called Bottom of the Barrel. That's been my bread and butter. That's the first article idea I ever had. And the first article idea I ever had, and I ran with it for football. And I've used it in baseball and hockey now. So go on my Twitter at Detroit Beastie, check it out. There's some sample lineups in there. And tell me what you guys think of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I retweeted it earlier, but I'm going to check it out when we get done here.
Yeah, it's one strategy I always try is to try to get some really dirt cheap guys first, and then I can just kind of fill out my lineup with the studs from there.
That's because you're a cheapskate.
Oh, you got to balance. You got to manage your cap, man. If you can't get all the studs.
You can't be a tightwad everywhere, man. Come on.
Here's the thing. If you're playing in a GPP, that's the big tournament. It's $1 to get in. You're playing against 50,000 people. You need to have, the studs they need to hit, but you need to have those cheap under the radar guys to pop and do it, and go well above and beyond, go 3-4 times their value of what they cost. That's the only way you're going to win a big GPP tournament. But when it comes to cash games, as you guys know, you want safety, all the safe guys. Don't get too crazy with your players, and like you said, Dan, just even across the board, manage the salary cap and go from there. So the Bottom of the Barrel article is strictly for big tournaments and GPPs.
Yeah. Cool. So let's hit up some questions. We did offer some opportunity to ask some questions. We got a bunch of them. A couple comments to start off with. Bob's Three-Toed Warriors. Shout out to Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bobby boy.
He was glad to see some of his favorite IDP minds getting together. And, of course, his tagline, Boom Says Bob.
I made fun of him for that about a month or two ago. And he hasn't wavered or faltered. He's picking up steam.
He's been saying Boom Says Bob for a long time. Yeah,
he has.
We were in a vampire league with him last year, and
okay,
he tried IDP and we tried vampire, so we both tried something new, and so yeah.
But I'm not giving up on Bob. I'm going to get him back into IDP. He keeps fighting me on it, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, There was also another at Bottom Feeders 12 said which fantasy analyst will refer to themselves the most in the third person this season.
That was me after a joke tweet after you posted we want questions. And I tried to make it act like it wasn't me tweeting it, but it was from my handle. And I think I said, hey, who's going to be at the end of the season? You know, drum up some business on the chat.
Yeah, right. It was funny. I thought it was funny. And here's an actual question here, an actual IDP question. Which player who missed most of 2019 due to injury is the most undervalued heading into 2020? So I have my answer. I'll let you guys go first, whoever wants to jump in there.
Go ahead, Beastie.
Well, I didn't plan ahead. I'm looking through my rankings now. And to be honest with you, without looking at anything, what comes to mind is Derwin James, the stud safety for the Chargers. This guy he missed a large portion of the season, and he's like a ball hawking monster. He's an IDP player, like he's our dream. You know, he's going to punch the ball out. He's going to hit someone hard. He's going to force fumbles. He's going to take an interception or two to the house every season. You know, he's like Jamal Adams or Landon Collins, let's say, or more importantly, Minkah Fitzpatrick in Pittsburgh. Those are those ball hawking DBs that you want on your team. So I'm going with Derwin James in LA. I think they call him the Jack Boys with a Z.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Jamal Adams and Derwin James. I just took over an orphan that has both Derwin James and Jamal Adams. So I'm like,
sweet.
I fell into this quite an orphan. Actually, it was the defending champ, so I don't know what happened, but I fell into a defending champ orphan, so I was glad to take it and run with it.
Yes, I'm gonna follow up with another safety. I know me and Dan has talked about him a crap ton because he's been injured not last year but the year before. Keanu Neal for the Falcons. But I think now that his value has dropped so much, but due to the injuries, man, I think he's a great buy right now because everybody is just gun shy him. So I'm picking him up where I can. And I'm willing to take that risk. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a top 10 safety easily.
So that's a good one.
Yeah. If he stays healthy, that's a big if.
That's a big if.
Mine actually, our own Joey the Tooth wrote an article about him. Bradley Chubb. He's
good one.
Many people in ADP. If you look at his ADP, if you look at drafts, he's going so late because if you use MFL and you're just using the top performers as your guide, you're missing out on all three of these guys really because. Bradley Chubb's nowhere to be found because he left so early in the season. He
had 12 sacks his rookie season, and then, like you said, he was hurt. I just discussed. It was an all Denver sports podcast, and we talked Bradley Chubb's. I agree, that's a really good one.
Yeah, and I'm not usually a fan of outside linebackers, but if you have an edge designation, he's outstanding for that. Outside linebacker, if you get good sack numbers, if you get good sack points, he's still good and solid there.
Well, outside linebackers are if correct me if I'm wrong, they're kind of your cover guy too. They'll drop back in coverage, to maybe hang with the slot guy or the tight end. So there is some possibility of interceptions or fumble recoveries with a outside linebacker.
Yeah, if I'm what's his name? The Bears' old coach. What's his name? Vic Fangio. I'm saying Chubb go get the quarterback and go get the ball.
Right.
And that's his job. Him and Von Miller. That's pretty much. I mean, he'll drop back in coverage every once in a while, but
the whole. Sorry to derail this, but there's some pieces on that Denver defense that are very intriguing this year. One of them being Justin Simmons. Their young safety. He's flying around. So again, Keanu Neal and what you said, Dan, with Chubb, they're almost free. So there's high risk,
Right.
or let's say high risk, but it's high reward. That's how it always goes in everything in life. High risk,
right.
high reward.
Right.
Yep. We got another question. This is actually, I missed the first part of the question here. Is it worth drafting a stud cornerback? This one's directed at me, I guess. Like Stephon Gilmore. If teams don't throw his way, there's no stats to accumulate. He kind of was the exception to the rule, I would say, last season. I wouldn't necessarily say that's always the case because people threw at him constantly, and he made them look silly every time they did, just about.
Yeah, I mean, he had, the narrative is that if you're a top corner, you don't get targeted, and there's some truth and to that. But if you look, Gilmore was one of 5 defensive players last year that had 5 or more interceptions and 15 or more pass breakups, and he was at the top of those 5. I mean, sure, he's not as targeted as much as maybe some of the others, but when you target him, he's going to make plays. And I think he's kind of the rule to the exception a little bit, because generally you want players that are targeted more that aren't as good. But, if your interceptions are scoring high and you get good points for pass deflections, then it's really not hard. It's hard to not look at Stephon Gilmore. I mean, he's one of the exceptions. And there were 5 players that fit into that criteria last year, and he was one of the best.
I love this question. It's a fantastic question because if you're just a casual IDP guy, you're unsure about this. And for people like us who live and breathe this stuff, we have definite answers. Like you said, Darrell, there are exceptions to the rule. You said it too, Dan. You get, those top 5 guys like Kyle Fuller in Chicago, or let's say Tre'Davious White in Buffalo. You get these guys. There are exceptions here because they're not getting targeted a lot. So do you want them on your team? The answer that I have is it depends on the league you play in. Do you have is it slated as DB where safeties and cornerbacks all lump into the DB designation, or is it split up between safeties and cornerbacks? If that's the case, then you have a totally different aspect here. Like Kenny Moore in Indianapolis, these guys, they cut off half the field, and quarterbacks aren't looking their way. So if your team is a DB only, I would fill my roster with just safeties. Unfortunately, I'm not going to roster a lot of cornerbacks. But in your league, if you have cornerback spots, you have no choice but to pick those top guys.
And that's a great example. I personally hate playing in those general leagues, but there is a need for it, especially if you're new. Get your feet wet, get into those type of leagues and see if you like it or not. And Dan's probably like me. I get probably 85-90% of our leagues are position specific. So we're starting corners.
Yes. And
if you have to start corners, I mean, Stephon Gilmore, man, I mean, you can't do much worse or much better than him. I mean, even though he's limited on how many times he's targeted, he's a producer, and that's what you want.
I know we bash corners a lot on this show, and me in particular.
No, you bash corners.
I do.
Oh, boy.
But when I am looking for a corner that's already in the league, normally I just grab some rookies and roll with the rookies to steal Darrell's tagline here. For his article series on idpguys.org, that's what you call prime just teaser out there. But anyway, I look at 2 categories. I look at tackles and I look at passes defended. Now, Gilmore falls in the passes defended category as being top notch. Right. If your league scores passes defended really well, like 6 points, in some leagues it's bumped up huge to make people that are good at their craft worth something. Then you look at passes defended, and then I look at tackles because you're going to get a point for a tackle at least at corner. So, some of the guys I've looked at recently, and I'm in a 32 team league, a couple of them that are drafting right now. And I was just reviewing, and if Jonathan Joseph wasn't so old, I would take him because he's had at least like 12 passes defended his entire career. Now, unfortunately, he's like 32 years old. So this is a dynasty league, and taking a 32-year-old corner is a little bit of a gamble. If he's still around in a couple rounds, I'll take him as to start this year. But looking at guys that just accumulate PDs, it means they're probably pretty decent at what they do, but they're still going to get targeted. So finding those mediocre guys, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think I can look at who I ended up taking. I think it was Janoris Jenkins. I mean, he's a little bit older on the older side, but he also has a ton of passes defended, but he also gets a ton of tackles because if he doesn't knock it down, he's pretty sure tackling. I actually went with Janoris Jenkins in this one league. That's a 32 team. Full defense.
That's a man league.
Yeah, it's really it's single copy, so none of this double copy stuff. But yeah, Janoris Jenkins. I mean, he went with left the Giants cut him because he used some poor language choices, and then the Saints picked him up. He's had 16, 15, 9, 17, 15. He had one down year with 5. That was his third year in the league. But, he has consistently double-digit. And he also has the tackles, too. He had 51 tackles last season. And I don't even think he played 16 games because he was in transit to a different team.
And interesting that you mentioned Janoris Jenkins. He is another one of the 5 that had 5 interceptions or more and 15 pass deflections. So, those players like that, there's players out there that you can find. You got to do a little bit of homework. And you were mentioning
stats, though. Passes defended and tackles. That's what I look at if I'm looking for something. If I'm not just grabbing rookies. I mean, in this league, you could grab rookies, but I want to make sure I have some steady points coming.
Right. And there's one more thing that I kind of look at with corners, and it's kind of a rarity. How are they being used, especially off the slot, as a blitzer? Desmond King, Mike Hilton, because those guys are getting sacks. So that's some huge bonus points, especially in leagues where sacks are scored high. That's huge for cornerbacks. So there's a few of those guys. I mean, I'm kind of like you, interceptions, pass deflections, tackles. That's where I'm looking at, especially the solos. But if I can get a guy that gives me good numbers at the corner position right there, and they're giving me those blitzing opportunities where they get sacks, Logan Ryan, Desmond King, Mike Hilton, those type of players, those are the ones I'm really focusing on because those are big bonus points that can be left out there.
I'm not saying punt the position fully, but it's one of those positions where you can stream, and I'm sure you guys know what streaming means, where you add and drop a guy at that position each week. Over the years of playing IDP, I've noticed that cornerback, it doesn't really matter who if I miss out on the top 5 or top 10 cornerbacks, I just go week to week because every week there's a guy that makes himself available on the waiver wire after a big game. So you can slot. So if you're willing to dig in and be a dog and do the work on the waiver wire, cornerback is the perfect position to do that with.
Yeah, the one problem with this league is it's 50 deep, 32 teams.
So there's not a lot of guys to be had. Yeah,
there's no waivers. So this is the 26th round. I took Janoris Jenkins, my first corner.
And me and Dan, we battle a lot about corners. He's a big streamer guy, and I get that. I'm with you. I guess where I'm at is if you're in your drafts, look for these guys, target these guys, your Gilmores, your Janoris Jenkins, your Kings, your Logan Ryans. Target these guys. Make your list. And it's going to be a small list. It really should be because it's a limited number. Make that list and just start watching when you're drafting where they're going. And if you can get a great enough value for them, then go ahead and draft them because the point value return that you're going to get is going to be better than anything you can get off waivers. Now, if you can't get these guys, I completely agree with y'all. Stream, pick up off waivers, do that kind of things. But
it's like tight end. If you don't have the tippity top of the elite,
right, it's basically tight end. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
I have a quick question for you guys. I think it's a real good one. Correct me if I'm wrong. Looking at my rankings, I have Kyle Fuller as cornerback 1, like 104 overall in my IDP. And then 2 spots down, Bradley Chubb, 106. But Bradley Chubb is like linebacker 50. You're on the clock. Who are you going to take a guy like Bradley Chubb who, let's put all the injury stuff aside, we think he's going to do what he's going to do, 10 plus sacks. You're going to draft linebacker 50 or you're going to draft cornerback 1 in Kyle Fuller in Chicago?
I'm still taking Chubb.
Right. There's no wrong answer. It's all opinion based. You know what I mean?
I'm probably taking Chubb, but it's because I don't have Fuller as my number 1 corner.
Okay.
But I see what you're saying. I mean, and that's a good point because that's kind of where I'm thinking. If you can gain the advantage
in a certain position,
if you can gain that big advantage, if you can take the number 1 overall player at that position compared to the 50th or 100th or whatever he is at another position, I completely agree. That's kind of where I'm at with the Logan Ryans, the Desmond Kings, because they give you so many points depending on what your scoring is. You got to know your scoring. That's the first thing. But, yeah, I agree with you. If you can get the jump at a certain position and get the top 1, 2, 3 guys compared to a 50, 60, 70 guy, then, yeah, that's a no-brainer for me. I'm with you.
I've spent this entire time that you've talked about where you had rankings. I pulled up my rankings, and I've been scrolling this entire time looking for my first corner. It's way far down there because I just don't.
Mine is way down there, but I do know that my first corner is Desmond King, just solely based on, well, I won't say that.
I'm trying to find who my top corner is because
of his blitzing opportunities, because he gets a lot of sack blitzing opportunities, plus he gets a lot of punt return and kickoff return chances.
I have Byron Murphy because I just think he gets such a great opportunity in Arizona, and then I have Tre'Davious White.
I have Murphy at 2, and I think White is actually my 4th. I think I have King, Murphy, Gilmore, and White. I think that's my top 4.
But we're talking way down the list. Way down.
Yeah. I think I have Fuller, Kenny Moore, Tre'Davious White, and then a guy like Mike Hughes in Minnesota at 4. And then you go down Logan Ryan. He's a free agent.
Right.
What are you going to do?
And I think you got to look at
Hughes a lot this year because he's basically their top guy, and he's not really proven anything either. So, I mean, I think they're going to test those Minnesota corners early and often.
And I think you got to look at your team too. I mean, especially in Dynasty. You know, if you're kind of set at linebacker and you're weak at corner, you're going to move those corners up because that's where you're weak at, you know.
All right, we talk way too much about corners.
Quit being a hater, Dan.
So we have a prime DB question here. Who is your safety breakout this year and why? Ooh, safety breakout.
I saw this question earlier. My safety breakout, they're the rookies, Jeremy Chin or Antoine Winfield in Tampa Bay. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry there.
I definitely think Chin and Winfield, it's not as cut and dry that he's just going to be the guy.
I meant cut and dry to me, in my opinion.
It is, yeah.
Or McKinney,
I mean, in my mind, yeah, he should start because he's better than Evans or Whitehead. So, I mean, in my mind, too, that's where I go.
Yeah, I think Chin definitely is a starter. I think McKinney's definitely a starter in New York. Winfield, I really like Winfield. I think he has a good chance to start. So those 3, I mean, any of those 3 right there are definitely good breakout candidates. If you put me on the spot and I had to pick one, I'm probably going Jeremy Chin just because of his situation. You know, they don't have Reed back. They don't have Kuechly back. So getting him as a starter, I think he's lined up for a big year.
So, I mean, this isn't obvious, but this is maybe a little too obvious, but as a breakout. But who was I even Taylor Rapp. I think Taylor Rapp is. I mean, you may have said he broke out last year, but I think I almost prefer him over John Johnson.
Oh, I definitely do. Taylor Rapp is going to be the bomb for the Rams. I'm telling you. You want to ask that question? Who's your breakout? Go get that kid right there.
Yeah, but I think and again, this is another guy that he kind of has already, you know his name already. I think Carl Joseph in Cleveland is going to have a huge year.
Oh, man.
I have a guy that's not a rookie. Sorry to butt in. A guy that's
not
a rookie who I think is going to break out, who I have literally one or two spots above Rapp, is Jesse Bates in Cincinnati. Jesse Bates the third, let's say, in Cincinnati.
There's been a huge discussion about Cincinnati with them adding Von Bell. They have Sean Williams. They have Jesse Bates. I think Sean Williams is going to be the odd guy out. I think you might see him drop down in the box a little bit as a linebacker. Von Bell will play that strong safety. But Jesse Bates, he's gold, man. I've been on him. Dan can tell you, I've been on him for 2 years now. And we have seen that Cincinnati's defense can support 2 top fantasy safeties. So if I'm picking one, it's Bates, no doubt. I'm not worried about him at all.
And if when people ask us these questions, you can even say Tracy Walker in Detroit or Jesse Bates in Cincinnati. The first question I get is, why do you want to start guys? Why do you want to start defensive guys on crappy teams? And I have to tell people, and even tell myself, is I don't care what the real life outcome of the game is, right?
Yeah,
right.
If you're on a team with a crappy defense like Bates or Porter in Detroit, there's going to be a ton of tackles. They're going to be on the field more than half the game because their team stinks. Right. So again, I don't care what the real life, how the game ends in real life. I just want tackles, interceptions, passes deflected, like you said, Dan. They all accumulate points. You have to expand your horizons, people.
So one more that maybe isn't somebody that's been around for a couple years. Well, I guess Rapp hasn't been around. Kyrie Willis, I think, in Indianapolis is probably a lower rated, lower ranked guy that I think is going to have a nice season.
I actually like him because they drafted Malik Hooker, a few years ago from Ohio State. And when he came out of the draft, I was not his biggest fan because he's always injury prone. And I know everybody's like, well, anybody's injury prone, but I mean, he had issues in college. He went to the Colts, and he's had injury issues there, and they're ready to move on from him. And I think Kyrie Willis, that's a good option. I mean, if you're looking for a buy low candidate with a big upside, that's another good one.
All right, we got one more question to hit before we – go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say something simple. Like, I love like an underrated cornerback. No, not cornerback. An underrated safety when you're playing behind a guy like Justin Houston in Indianapolis, and then who I believe is the number 1 overall ranked IDP guy, Darius Leonard. He's a stud linebacker. Yeah. And it's a team game. You're all helping each other out. So when you got guys like that playing in front of you and you're the safety looking at them, there's nowhere to go but up.
I agree with you on Leonard being the number 1, but Danielle Hunter's pushing him real close just because of the position scarcity.
Yeah. All right, so we have one more. What's that? We can debate that on the Patreon episode.
Sure.
We have one more question, and it was it was interesting, and I wanted to bring it up because first of all, it's Jay the Football Nerd. He asked the question here. He says he likes to stream his IDP week to week. He found success in picking up whichever linebacker is playing the Ravens or the Seahawks or a heavy run team. And we asked how many he started, and it's like 1 IDP and another one he starts 2. So my first piece of advice is, Jay, it's good that you're dipping your toes into IDP. It's time to join a league with maybe 11 maybe 9 or 11 starters. Because yes, in those shallow leagues, I'm in one that we have, flirted with IDP. I haven't been on them a lot because I don't want to badger people about stuff constantly, but we introduced IDP, and it's like 1 or 2 players. So I have a couple studs, and I don't really worry about it because I have studs, and I can plug. I have like 3 IDPs. We started 2 or 3 the first season.
You set it and forget it.
Right. You draft studs, and everybody has studs. It's just like you don't even start any because everybody pretty much has, unless somebody has a huge game, you're all pretty much on a level playing field.
It's basically like playing in a 10-team league. Everybody's got stars everywhere.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's a 12-team league, but like I said, his strategy is you look for a matchup you can exploit to try to get extra gravy on top of your standard 6 or 7 tackles that your guys are going to get in that league. You can start a safety, you can start a defensive end or whatever, but why not? I mean, that's a sound strategy, but again, I'd implore your league and you to bump that number of starters up a little bit because it's almost. I'm trying to think of an offensive analogy for that, and the only one I can think of is if you only start 1 running back and you're only allowed to start 1 running back.
Right.
Everybody would have a stud running back, and they really wouldn't make
it. Would be a wash. It would be a wash. Like everybody's running backs would cancel each other out, and you'd have to look at other positions.
So I mean, sound strategy to try to milk a couple points out of that. But I'd implore you to try to challenge your league, challenge yourself to bump up the number of starting positions. I mean, expand rosters. You might have to take a vote on that, obviously. Any changes to your league that are that big, you want to change at least a year or 2 out, but something to think about, or join another league that has more starters and learn more of the deep nature. I'm not saying for you to jump out into a 32-team single copy full IDP 50-round draft like I mentioned earlier. The MDF Invitational is what I'm referring to here, that I am in here. But I mean,
a few years ago, you mentioned this. A few years ago, all I played was offense only, like most people do. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I was like, I want to try out this IDP. So I joined a league. It was a general league. You started 1 linebacker, 1 defensive lineman, 1 defensive back. And I was like, man, this is so good. I bet there's something better to this. And I was hooked right off the start. And after that first year, I jumped feet first right into position-specific leagues, huge rosters, big taxi squads, and I've never looked back. I mean, I suggest if you're not sure, just kind of try it out and see. Get in a redraft league or something like that and kind of test it out. And if you like it, you're going to be hooked right off the bat. And join one of our listener leagues if we have openings. That's a good way to learn too. I mean, it's if you love IDP like I do, you're going to be hooked right off the bat, and you're never going to look back.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we want to give Chris an opportunity to plug himself one more time before we get out of here for the evening and head on over to our Patreon episode. So, Chris, go ahead and tell the people.
Plug. The simplest, most easy way to get a hold of me, chat with me, see my content is on Twitter @DetroitBeastie. My content is on dfscheatsheet.com. If you want to look for me on Facebook, my name on Facebook is just Chris Robin. It's the same. Just look for my face and you'll know you got the right Chris Robin. So again, easiest way is on Twitter @DetroitBeastie. Come give me a follow. I'll follow you back. I'm really big into helping and supporting other people. I know you and I, the 3 of us talked about it an hour and 23 minutes ago before we went live. But that's the only way that I know how to learn and grow with anything, is to help and support others, share my content, share my ideas. The minute I become the smartest man in the room is the minute I've lost my edge, my touch. I'm always willing to listen to constructive criticism. I learn on a daily basis, things like that. So come find me on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. Let's chat. Let's talk.
I got to know you as Detroit Beastie because if I hear the word Robin, I'm thinking Red Robin.
Or Winnie the Pooh, I get a lot too.
I was thinking Batman. I go to Batman automatically, but yeah.
I could do worse, I guess.
That's true.
Right.
But it's interesting. You said, if you're the smartest person in the room, my mentality always is if I'm the smartest person in the room, I need to find a new room.
Right.
Because I need to challenge myself. I need to find some other intellectual.
I think you can always learn. I mean, that's the thing. You can always learn. And like Beastie said, always help. I mean, if you're not helping everybody else, then what's the point? I want these leagues, our listener leagues that I'm in, I want them to be the best that they can be.
You want them to snipe you left and right.
No, I don't want them to snipe me left and right. No.
You just
Thanks, Peter.
Anyways, we're going to wrap this up. Catch us on the Patreon. Catch us next week. Also, catch us on the IDP Lounge this Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. We will be having 3 guests. I don't have the information necessarily in front of me. I think
we need to get Chris on the lounge.
We have plans for that, definitely.
Yeah, awesome.
And I think one of these Fridays we're going to have to get a mock draft going.
Oh, sweet.
Maybe just an IDP only mock draft, just to cut down some time.
Yeah, we can do that.
A 2-hour, maybe set it up on Sleeper or something and screen share. I don't know. We can get crazy with it. I don't know. But anyway, Chris,
get jiggy with it. Nah. See, Beastie gets it. He's with me. Beastie gets it. He's with me. Nah.
We will catch you on Friday night. We'll catch you next week.
Oh.
And we'll catch you on the Patreon. If you're a patron, come join us on the Patreon show. We'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming on, man.